Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Sarah Seidelmann, and this is the Hummingbird series where I introduce you to people who I think you would like to meet. And I have with me today Jessica Swift, who's an amazing artist, creator. She's an instructor. She teaches on Skillshare, these amazing courses. She is a published card deck creator and has this amazing card deck called the Animal Allies, which we'll talk a little bit more about. But I got to know Jessica through a mutual friend, and I saw her start to do a 100-day project. This was probably, I don't know, 8 years ago. It's been a while.
I think it seems that long ago, but it was actually in 2016. It was when my son was 3 months old. Yeah, so it was the beginning of 2016. So 5 years ago.
And that's one of the things I want to touch on. I mean, she did this amazing project when her son was a wee baby. She's got a certain tenacity about her, and that's why I want you guys to meet her. So Jessica, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. And
thank you so much.
So tell me a little bit about, like, how did you start on, well, I know your animal project wasn't a 100-day project, but talk to us about how you started that project.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it was a few different things. So I had attempted 100-day projects before, maybe 2 or 3 times. And I remember one that I abandoned about a week or 2 in was I was drawing people in interesting outfits or something. And it was like fun for a little while, and I just lost my steam really quickly. And I can't even remember what the other projects were that I attempted and abandoned, quickly early on. And so I knew after my son was born, and I mean, anybody who has become a new parent, a parent for the first time, knows that it's like your entire world and your entire identity is like turned upside down. And I realized very quickly that I could get completely lost in that if I wasn't really intentional about keeping up the other parts of my life that were really important to me, namely making things and creating and having that time. Like, I'm an introvert, and that time to myself where I'm just making things has always been a really vital part of me, like being a sane and happy person. So I thought, okay, I need to find a way to try to create something simple every day if possible. But I also gave myself a little bit of wiggle room. Like, I'm going to try to do this every day, but also probably know that there are going to be some days that I don't make it to my painting table or whatever. So I just had this idea, like, I've always loved painting and drawing animals. That's always been really fun and easy for me. So I wanted to make my project, whatever I decided it to be, I wanted it to be fun and easy and to have like as few barriers as I could possibly have, because otherwise I wasn't going to do it, right? Or I was going to be afraid to show up. So I thought, okay, I've always loved creating animals. So it wasn't even I was going to paint an animal. It was I was going to create an animal every day. And some days that might be a 5-minute drawing in a sketchbook. Some days I might have more time and I might be able to create a whole painting. It was just like, get an animal out of me in some form every day. And it very quickly took the shape that it ended up taking for the rest of the whole year. So this is a project I set out to do for a whole year, not just 100 days.
And as she's talking,
and I just
show you some of the cards, some of the things that came out of this, because they're so neat.
Yeah. So I settled just somehow kind of magically. One day I painted, I remember it was a fox. That was the first painting where it just felt like, wow, I feel like I tapped into something new and different that feels really good for me. That just kind of, it felt really exciting. And so I settled into the format of having the animal on top and the name on the bottom. And yeah, so that's how I created the animals for the whole rest of the year. And I think I ended up with about 165 or something like that. So I didn't do it every day, but I did do it, 165 days out of 365. Yeah, and I came out with this amazing series of work that is like my favorite series of work that I've ever created still to this day, and turned it into the deck and turned it into, like, I've licensed it for puzzles and cards and different things. Like, it's been really amazing to see what came from just setting that little intention. Like, I just want to create an animal every day to keep myself tuned in to my creativity so I don't totally lose myself in this whirlwind of new motherhood.
Yeah. And I think I love the 100-day project is so the format is really that you do something every single day is the idea. And whether you make it 30 days, 60 days, or, but you'll have at least done more than zero. And you try to keep it to be a small project and a doable project, like maybe 15, 20 minutes. I'm guessing these took longer than that.
They look like they took a long time, and some of them did take a little bit more time than others, but most of them were like an hour or less.
And you're an artist. You're a pretty practiced artist at this point.
Well, yeah, but the cool thing too was that I noticed myself improving through the project also. So it's like the more I did, the faster I was able to actually create them in a way that I really liked and felt good about, because I trusted myself more. I knew what I was doing. Like it just became kind of more intuitive and natural. So that was really exciting too. Like I felt like I could kind of measure my progress. And it was also like there were some days where it really flowed and there were other days where it really didn't. And I can look back through those paintings and see and kind of remember like, oh, that's that day that I was kind of really trying to force it because I just really wanted to get it done. But, I have paintings that didn't make it into the deck because they were just not great paintings. But, that's part of the process too. Like you're not going to make something that you love every single day.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Were there any that you didn't post because you were just like, oh, I'm really not happy with this?
I posted all of them because that was part of it for me too. But if there were paintings that I didn't like, I was not afraid to share that. Be like, here we go. This is what I made today. And I am not proud of it, but that's life. That's the life of a creative person. That's the life of a person in general, like not every day is going to be amazing and go the way that you envision it going. So that's just part of it.
I was really struck too, because I've been following you for years and I've been a fan of yours for a long time. And I was really struck. You had a very tragic event happen and you lost your husband at a very young age. And I remember it wasn't too long after that you launched into this another 100-day project. And it was just, can you talk about that? Because I was just like, it was so moving and you were, so raw and sharing your emotions. Another thing, you guys, when she posts her art, Jessica will share like what's in her heart, what's going on. The struggle is real.
For better or for worse.
No, and it's so transparent and authentic and I love it. But can you talk about that process?
Yeah. I mean, art, I think making art has always been a way for me to like hear messages from the universe, for lack of a better way to say it, that I need for myself, and that I've somehow been able to figure out how to translate into like different versions of, like my artwork has morphed and changed over the years, but there's always been some element of having a message to it that is hopefully impactful to the person who's looking at it. So that's really where it starts for me, is just really like trying to make myself feel better. So when I was in that really raw state after Ryan died, and I was really just trying to make my way through that grief, and I was, pregnant at the time. So I was like in new motherhood again 4 months later with like a toddler and a brand new baby and being a single mom. And like, it was completely insane. And I just needed a way to, like, another way other than talking to my friends and talking to my family and talking to my therapist. Like I needed to just find a way to be with myself with it all, also to kind of process it on my own. And for me, there's always been a lot of magic in like making the art and then writing about the art. Like that's kind of where the messages really sink in for me too. So when I started, I called the project that I did, I can't remember exactly when I started it. Maybe 5 months after Ryan died, 4 or 5 months. I called it 100 Messages to Myself. So it was just whatever I needed to tell myself that day, or whatever I needed to hear for myself.
And before that, didn't you do the rainbows? I think that's what
is that what you're talking about? Yeah. So that was actually not 100-day project. That was a 100 painting project that I actually did very quickly in less than 100 days.
Okay.
I feel like I've done different versions of 100 100 projects in 100s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is a funny way. Like, I feel like I'm just always kind of listening and waiting for whatever I'm supposed to be doing next to show up. And that one was kind of a um, serendipitous way that project came about, where I started painting rainbows, and I'm trying to remember exactly. Ryan's mom and I had this weird connection about rainbows and crystals. Like, she used to hang crystals in her window that would shine rainbows all over the place. And like, we just had this strange, like, she was going to buy crystals and I had decided to make these paintings, and we both, like, she ordered 40 crystals and I was going to make 40 paintings because Ryan died when he was 40. And I was going to give these paintings to people at his memorial, which I did. And then it just felt like that project wasn't done. And I was just listening for what was supposed to come next. And I heard, like, make 100 paintings. I was like, that's crazy. I can't make 100 more of these rainbow paintings. And then I remember counting on the calendar thinking, well, when is 100 days from the day that Ryan died? And it was Thanksgiving Day, which was his favorite holiday.
Wow.
So that's when I was like, okay, I guess I meant to make 100 more of these paintings and send them out into the world to whoever needs one.
So beautiful and incredible and so simple, but like, they're just so profound, like profound in their, to me, it was just very moving, because it's like, there's so many of us who like are like sitting on our creative gifts and we're just so stuck. And here's you who's in the middle of this, just like firestorm, like everything. And you're just like, plumping out these rainbows, and they were just wonderful. And I love when, like, the crazy synchronicities. It's like, oh, of course I have to do this. There's no doubt.
Yeah, it was very strange. And it was just, I mean, again, it just felt so amazing to be able to come up to my studio where I'm sitting now and work on these rainbows and be quiet and just think about everything that was going on in my life and think about why I was making these paintings. And rainbows quickly became a symbol of gratitude for me. So I was thinking about, like, all the people that I was grateful for who had shown up for me in so many different ways in this completely chaotic, wild, awful time in my life. And like, it just was, yeah, it was really a way that I was able to process everything by myself, creating just the way that I always do.
I heard somebody say yesterday that, who was it? So that making art is power. Art is power. Like, as we paint or whatever we're making, writing a song, whatever we're doing, like, power is being transmitted to us. And that makes so much sense to me, because while it is hard to sit down sometimes, you know, because we have all this resistance or fear of being perfect, or got your gremlins, and it's like,
oh yeah,
but then the power comes, you know, and it's so amazing, and then we feel better. And
yeah, well, I always like to think that art can express feelings in a way that nothing else really can. Maybe music is similar, but definitely in a way that words can't. So I like to remember that for myself too. Like, in the making of this artwork, I'm giving myself something that I can't give to myself in any other way, and that other people will experience in a way that they can't experience it otherwise, you know, through writing or whatever.
yeah, and they'll make their meaning out of it. That's
yeah, exactly. Like, art is magic. It's complete magic.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
So if somebody was going to embark on their first 100-day project, like, what would you recommend? Like, what are your hot tips for that person?
My hot tips. My hot tips, I guess, are, number one is like, have some sort of like really concrete parameter. You know, maybe it's like one important person I think to look at who's been doing, I think she's done some 100-day projects, but also she just does like very consistent daily artwork, is Jennifer Orkin Lewis. And when she started doing her sketchbook work, she just had a 30-minute time limit. So she would do whatever she could do in 30 minutes. And then when that 30 minutes was up, she was done. And that really worked for her, just having that, like, it wasn't too much time, but it was enough to actually create something, but it wasn't like, you know, 3 hours. So it wasn't like an intimidating amount of time.
Yeah.
So having some sort of concrete parameter, like for me, also a parameter is that I like to make things that are all the same size. So like all my rainbow paintings were little squares. And I don't know if you can see some of the paintings behind me there, the squares, like that was another, I actually only got halfway through that project too. I got to 50 days, but those were all the same size. So that's a parameter that really works for me. Having an idea that's open-ended enough, but also concrete enough to, how do I say? Like when I set out to create a daily animal, it wasn't like, I'm gonna create 100 paintings of animals like wearing clothes. Like that would feel a little too restrictive for me and something that I would probably abandon. So giving yourself some freedom within your project to explore as you go and to allow things to kind of shift and morph and change as they need to, I found is really important. What other hot
And that
tips do I
juiciness
have?
factor, like you were saying before, like you didn't have the juice for doing, I think you said your other project where you were drawing outfits every day just didn't have the juice. But when you had the animals, so picking something like for me, when my first 100-day project, I wanted to spend more time connected with my spirit animal. And so it was so easy for me because I was like, okay, I'll just connect with Alice every day. And that was something I'd really longed for. So it's like, it was so juicy because it was like, it just served my soul to do it every day.
Yeah, I think that's really important. It's like something that you need for yourself. Give yourself something that you need.
I love that.
Yeah.
Give yourself something you need. It's like quotable.
Yeah, give yourself something you need because, I mean, why not? You're the one who can give you exactly what you need. So.
And I know like right now you're in the middle of a series where you're, I think the hashtags is well, I'm going to
100 things I know to be true.
I know to be true. It's so like simple and wonderful. And then the illustrations are just beautiful. Like can you talk about that process? And I know you have a class on Skillshare to help people get their own messages from art.
Yeah.
Art.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a little funny to talk about because everybody has their own way of kind of tuning into their intuition and hearing that very quiet sometimes inner voice. I mean, I'm sure you have, your tried and true ways of connecting with Alice and connecting with yourself. And it's so different and personal for everybody. But like I went out for a walk this morning because I wanted to get clear on like what's feeling true for me today. And I just scheduled my first vaccine appointment for tomorrow, which I'm like so excited about. And so the truth that's coming through today is, for some reason, it's hello world, it's a brand new day. And so it's just like a reminder to myself that like there's always hope. It's like this is, it's kind of just a message of optimism. And I've always been a relatively optimistic person. So it's like today is a brand new day. Today is a new day to make new choices and an opportunity to make magic. And so I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to talk about because I just I set out for my walk with the intention of like downloading whatever the message I need to hear for today is. And it just, I'll hear a lot of things that don't feel quite right. And then that one thing pops in. And I'm like, okay, that's it for today.
That's it.
Walking.
Because walks are
so good for walking really works for me, or in the shower too. And sometimes driving. Those are my three places.
Totally. You like, yeah, I can see it like getting, I mean, wow, like if you just took one shower a day for 100 days and received one message in the shower.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That would be awesome because you could incorporate, I mean, it could be kind of funny, like you could take a picture of your feet every day or whatever. I mean, it could be unique. That could be part of it too.
I mean, you can literally do whatever you want for a 100-day project. It can be as weird and wacky and unique as you want.
One of the
like the sky's the limit.
Yeah, sky's the limit. One of the ones I read about from the original teacher at Yale who started this thing is this woman tore up paint chips from like Home Depot and then drew one every day with the name of the paint chip and then just free wrote about the color and the crazy name, because they all have such wild.
That's cool. That's so funny that you say that because I have always thought that would be the best job in the whole world naming colors. I've always loved naming things and I would love that job. Like whoever has those jobs at the different companies.
A project where you just pull the color and you name it yourself and then you do
I like that.
Yeah, I'm trying
So
to
many options.
decide mine right now, and it's like, oh, my brain is just exploding with ideas.
Yeah, it's hard to settle on that one that feels right because there are so many different things that you could do. But yeah, I think it's just about like getting quiet and really trying to figure out like what is it that I need right now? What's going to serve me the most?
Yeah. Any advice for somebody who's like, oh my gosh, I don't know where to start. Like, I'm not an artist. I don't consider myself an artist. But when I see art, I get excited and I want to begin. Like, any tips for that person?
I would say start with collage. Like just start tearing things out of a magazine and like, as you go, maybe get braver and start I don't know, adding drawing or painting on paper and then cutting up those pieces that you've created yourself, just like abstract color, whatever, cut it into shapes, add it to your collages, just to kind of get those creative juices flowing in a really like low pressure kind of way. You don't have to draw anything, you don't have to paint anything, but it's still creative, arranging those images, listening for the messages that are coming from the images.
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, that makes me want to do a 100-day collage project, to be honest.
I know, I just bought myself an iPad and I'm like going through Procreate, and one of my things is like digital collage.
Yep.
But then I'm like, oh, there's so much faster. I'll never do it. But you just gotta, that's the beauty of 100 days. You'll be better at it if you commit to it than you were when
Yes, true. And that makes me think too. So I'm turning our garage into a pottery studio, and it feels so intimidating right now because I've like taken pottery classes in the past, but I am in like by no means do I know what I'm doing at all. So it's like really easy to procrastinate because it's scary. But now I'm thinking maybe I need to do a 100-day pottery project, like 100 small, I don't know, something. Yeah, just committing to it and like knowing that you'll see some progress over, because 100 days, it's, a little over 3 months. You can really improve in that amount of time.
And I think, and one thing to know is that in these projects, like if you're pushing your edges, you will be failing. Like I just read something like, there was a wonderful quote about like, if you're not failing, you're not really living, because
yes,
when we're living on that creative edge, like, can I do this? Like last night I taught a class in death and dying, like in a 2-hour block. And normally I take a whole weekend to teach that class.
Yeah.
Can I do it? Can it be a meaningful experience for people?
Yeah.
And it went well, thank goodness. But it's like that fear of failing. And like, I think that's what the 100 Days Project brings up for me, is like a lot of like, that perfectionism and like that it's got to be perfect or I've got to be an expert right away.
Yeah. It's so untrue. I know all those, icky voices that are in our minds, just trying to get us to stop before we've even started.
Exactly.
Are just they're so unhelpful. Somebody recently kind of reframed negativity and worry for me in a way that I really liked. She said that like negativity and worry are something to push back against. So it's like they're there to remind you that you have another choice, basically. So it's like, I was thinking about it recently because I'm going on a road trip next week with my 2 young kids, just the 3 of us, which seems terrifying. And, I have all kinds of worry about that. And then I was like, you know what? Nope, I'm not going to listen to that. The worry and the fear is just an opportunity for me to say, like, to see that as a challenge. Like, no, I can do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's just kind of a cool way to reframe it. Like, oh, this negativity it's not true. It's just trying to get me to stop. So I'll show it.
Exactly. Or what's the acronym, I think, for fear? Like false evidence appearing real. And it's just like, I don't need to give that too much due. Or you can acknowledge and go, yep, you're scared. You've been scared your whole life and you keep doing stuff. Okay,
You're probably going to keep being scared, but let's just do this anyway.
We're never going to get it right. It never goes away.
Right. I had a professor in college too who used to say to me that you have to be willing to make the bad art in order to get to the good art. So like it's all just part of the process, right? Not everything that you do or create is going to be brilliant, or you're not going to be an expert at things the minute you try something. Unfortunately, wouldn't that be great?
So great. We'd all be sick of ourselves though. We'd all be we'd all be masters too soon, right? Like it's so
Yeah,
great.
yeah, that's so true. It wouldn't be fun because we wouldn't have anything to practice and get better at.
Yeah, and then you wouldn't get that delight of every once in a while you make something that just blows your socks off. Like you're happy about it. When you see it, you think, dang, I'm glad you were willing to
Yeah,
because it wasn't easy and so
it
delightful.
makes all the crappy paintings and things that you feel like you wasted your time or, whatever, makes it all worth it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, it's been such a delight, and I know that people are going to get so much out of this conversation. Thank you so much, Jessica. Tell us, like,
Thank
what are you
you.
teaching, like, right now, or what can I know? Your website's jessicaswift.com, and they can find all
Yes.
your amazing cards and products. But what do you have going on that you'd like to let us know about?
Um, I feel like I have a lot of behind the scenes stuff happening right now that is not necessarily leading directly to anything specific at the moment. I'm redoing my website. I'm working on a book proposal. I'm like taking a kids book illustration class, hoping to illustrate kids books. So I don't have anything like major and exciting to announce right now, but yeah, I mean, I have a few classes available on Skillshare about pattern design, which is like my main jam, teaching people how to design repeating patterns in a program called Illustrator, which I'm sure many people have heard of before. And I just came out with a new class also on Skillshare just a few weeks ago about learning this really cool color tool also in Illustrator. So that's really kind of a fun, quick class that people can take if they want to learn a bit more about Illustrator. And then I do have a class about listening for your own messages and creating your own artwork for yourself from your intuitive messages also on Skillshare.
Yeah, that could be a cool project for somebody's 100 days, I think.
Yeah, it's been powerful for me and for people who have taken on the process themselves. So yeah, I guess those are the main things. Yeah, just a lot of behind the scenes stuff happening right now. So hopefully I'll have something cool to announce at some point.
You will. I know you will. Well, have a wonderful vacation and thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for sharing with us
Thank
today.
you so much for inviting me.
Yeah. Okay.